Good morning, folks. It's another Monday, so it's another Monday musings from myself. Again, this is a pre-recorded one, so it's not a live one due to Facebook giving me a ban over a joke, not even a particularly offensive one. But there you go. So I think I'm going to be uploading these to YouTube in future and then sharing them across platforms after that. So yeah, Monday musings for today. I haven't really got a plan for it, I'll be honest with you. But after just having a little bit of a practice, money and martial arts, okay, and my views on that. So there are people in this world who are incredibly predatory by their nature, predatory and exploitative. And in martial arts, there's no shortage of people that will make ludicrous amounts of money from martial arts in general. And I've personally not got a problem with that. I believe if you are good at something, you should fucking get paid for it. That's a fact. I've qualified as a personal trainer. I've done various courses, worked as a sports coach over the years. I won't go into schools and teach dodgeball, for example, for nothing. If I'm imparting my skills and abilities and I'm using my expertise as a coach, I expect to get paid for it. Simple as that. You wouldn't expect a gas engineer to come out to your house and fix your boiler in the middle of winter if it's broken down because he loves gas. So why shouldn't somebody be getting paid for something that they're incredibly skilled at, incredibly qualified at, and incredibly experienced in? There's absolutely no reason at all. There is, however, a stigma, particularly in martial arts, over the entire thing. And I believe it's a multifaceted problem. I think there's a ton of reasons why these opinions sort of float around. I think some of them have been around for donkey's years. So let's break it down. We'll start at the bottom. Making money from martial arts at a grassroots level, because grassroots level is where most of us start and it's where most of us stay for almost the entirety of our lives. If you consider it in purely a sporting context, we all start at a grassroots level. We start at your local club that's in a church or, a community centre hall, something like that. And the vast majority of cases, that's where we stay for most of our martial arts journey. We don't move on to professional sporting venues, to work at an Olympic and elite level competitively. Most of us aren't training for competition, so, there is that. But there's... Oh, Daniel's saying you'll catch fly. Go away, fly. There's a lot of grassroots clubs that are very bare bones, okay? I've been quite fortunate throughout my entire experience as a karateka, especially. In fact, no, even before that, when I started in judo at an after-school club with Sensei Keith Jones with the Wolverhampton Youth Judo Club, at school, they had judo mats. So we trained on really decent, I say decent, they were quite battered, but we trained on tatami, nice, thick, hard-wearing tatami. You learned how to break fall well. You had a proper dojo environment. They had that smell of feet that we all end up really loving. There's a smell to hard work. It sort of gets in environments. We had all that kind of stuff and it was really cool. And then When I moved on from judo, I got really interested in, it was Japanese jiu-jitsu. I had a local club, and I think that was headed up by Sensei Wayne Rice, I believe it was. I wasn't there for very long, but again, we had a nice room. That was actually in a sort of small community hub, and it was a stone's throw away from where I was living, which was even better. But we had some fantastic matches. You turn up 20 minutes early before lesson started. We'd all go outside. There was a big shipping container behind the building. We'd get all the mats in, bring them into the building, lay them out, make sure everything was clean, tidy, you know. Do your opening reho and crack on with your session. It was really good, you know, quite privileged like that. And then the karate club that I ended up in under Sensei Westwood, it was phenomenal. Sensei Westwood himself plowed a lot of his own personal funds into the club. He was responsible for buying most of the mats that we had for the club, jigsaw mats. He spent untold amounts of money, and I never really realised until I ended up in a position where I was buying this equipment myself, you know, just how much personal wealth that he was putting into that. And over time, like, the club was paying for that as well. But yeah, so there are some places, so going back to the point, there are some places where people are still training in a very basic hall, and they'll charge, I don't know, anywhere between £3 and £6, I think we've got locally around here. I know in London, costs are higher for most sessions, so there's probably more expense there, but, you know, trying to rent space there is going to be more expensive, which is reasonable. So yeah, between about £3 and £6, I think, is across the board locally for me, and that can range from anywhere to an hour to 2 hours in a session, depending on where you go. But some of these places, they don't reinvest back into their clubs, and you have to ask yourself, where's that money going? Because, you know, these are the kinds of people, usually speaking, that are like, nah, you shouldn't be making money from martial arts, you're a sellout and all that kind of thing. And you're there thinking, well, hang on a minute, you've got X amount of students paying X amount of money per week, and you're training on a dirty, bare floor. You're not attending any events. You're not getting any instructors in. You know, you're not running social events for your students. So where's this money going that's coming into your club? And they'll never answer the question, ever, because the actual fucking horrific truth is, it's going straight into their back pocket, and they'll finish the class and fuck off over the road to the pub, and they'll piss your money away. That is a problem. That is a fucking absolute problem. Number one, it doesn't really set a very good example to your students. And number two, you're not investing in your club. If you're not investing in your club, you're not investing in your students, what the fuck are you doing? What's the point? I'm not a particularly rich guy at all. You know, I am piss poor. I live in a very small council house. I don't have much money coming in. You know, I've repeatedly ended up stuck in cycles of having to rely on the benefit system because my country's wank, and I've been unfortunate. And then on top of that, I've made some really fucking crap choices in life. But still, I've never taken from my club to support my lifestyle. My dojo, in fact, let me just pan this round. So you got these mats here. There's some boxes of equipment at the back. There's some free hanging punch bags, and we got that stuff over there, and then like that over there at the back, that's a store cupboard. There's a bunch of punch bags in there. There's actually a whole extra set of mats, and I think, yeah, the training weapons are in there as well, and that kind of thing. I mean, that's been built up for ages. It's been built up over years and years and years. And like the mats that I'm on right now, those mats that I'm on right now, they were actually funded. I ran a project years ago now when I first set up, helped set up the WMA Community Fitness Centre, which was, you know, selfishly my involvement in it was to have a space for my dojo to exist, where we weren't beholden to a bunch of really shit-house people that ran the church. But yeah, when I did all of that, I ran a project, I think it was through Westminster Police, they had a fund going, and I was coaching kids, I was getting kids from various youth programmes and stuff like that, some of which had been involved in quite serious crime, and it was a way to tackle knife crime and stuff like that. It went really well, the project was well received, and yeah, it effectively paid for a whole new set of mats. And the previous mats that we had, that Sensei Daz had bought years ago, they were donated to Tivadar Shotokan Karate, because I couldn't think of anyone more deserving of taking those forward in future. You know, and I like to think of it as a cycle of karma, because those mats have now benefited a whole new set of students. They get to enjoy loads of really cool new stuff in a slightly safer, more comfortable atmosphere, because of that. So yeah, like, this hasn't all come out of my pocket, like Sensei Daz did originally with his own personal funds. I have sourced funding for this. Now, I have had people call me a beggar, for applying for funding that's out there publicly. I have had all sorts of mudflinging done with myself by fucking retards, I'll be honest. We have dumb motherfuckers who have no idea how community and charity work works. But there you go. Don't bother me, because they ain't nothing to do with my club, and they ain't got the bollocks to say it to me face. But what I have got is a really nice dojo for my students, you know, and a comfortable space for me to sit and talk crap at my camera. And yeah, any money that comes into my club, I funnel it back into the club itself. The club itself pays rent for this space, so the vast majority of my club's funds, for example, they go into the community centre's kitty to pay for the rent, because unlike most buildings locally that run as community centres, we're not subsidised by our local council, we are subsidised by us. We have to support ourselves. It is our local community that supports us and keeps us going. So yeah, and you know, I mean, I'm very careful, because you know, we've got a constituted group set up for these, like the funding we do and stuff like that. You have to have very clear accounts, so right down to the penny, everything's like, you know, it's all taken care of. And some places they don't do any of that. And then the money just, it disappears. Or, you know, Sensei Bob from down the road turns up in a new fucking Porsche, like, out of nowhere. That is a problem. So the people that own these businesses, right? The people that own businesses, they're not particularly the problem. It's your grassroots level knobs that are selfish in what they do. They're the problem. And they're the people you need to be asking these questions for. So when you turn up to a club, you need to be able to turn around and say, well, I'm paying this money for this session. Regardless of whether it's a minimal cost to pay rent or whatever, you've got to be able to turn around and say, well, here's my accounts, have a look. Be very black and white about it. It'll take all that stigma away. I know there's a lot of people that won't, and it'll probably never change in some instances, but that's the way it is. Moving on from that though, moving on to the more business orientated side, I would love at some point in future to be able to do what I do as a business, to make a living from what I do. At the moment I don't, and I'm hoping to work towards that goal in future, because number one, I've got the ability to do it. I've trained as a sports coach. I've done sports coaching for the vast majority of my life. That's my bread and butter outside of, odd jobs to survive, which a lot of us have ended up in. That's what I do. My passion is for coaching. So, I spend a lot of time, I spend a lot of my own personal money on training, on qualification, to keep upskilling myself to make sure that I'm a better coach. So that long term I can do that for a living. Whether that will pay off or not, I don't know. I need to do a lot more work to get there. But it's a goal and a purpose, isn't it? But I don't think there's any problem with people turning what they love into a business. If you do what you love every day and it puts food on the table on top of that, you're living the dream, aren't you? The problem I think that people have is with more exploitative folks. There are organisations out there. There are pyramid schemes in martial arts, pyramid selling schemes that will prey on the inexperienced, and usually the people that are a bit down on their luck as well. And yeah, they're very exploitative in how they operate. They charge extortionate sums of money for, in some cases, lacklustre training or fast-track training. We've all seen these get a black belt in 6 months deals or some shit like that. All that kind of rubbish. And that in itself is a whole extra set of problems. But we've all seen these sorts of schemes. I don't need to name the organisations that pop to mind. As soon as I've said it, you've already probably gone, oh, it's this group here. And it does happen. They're the problem. The places that will try to tie you into very ludicrous, very complicated contracts, particularly for children. We have a place fairly local to us. I won't name the place, but I've got a couple of my students are ex-students of this particular business place where the coaching was described to me as being substandard. I've not gone and trained there myself, so I can't comment. But from what I've seen that they offer, it's a bit disingenuous and incredibly extortionate. You're talking the likes of, I think it was something like £80 per month parents were paying for a child to attend 2 lessons a week or 3 lessons a week for an hour. That may not seem extortionate to some, but if you compare that to the general local cost of our grassroots places locally, it's ridiculous. And they try to lock people into contracts and hold them for a minimum of 12 months at a time as well. And I believe that's been extended now as well. So there's no choice to get out of it, which is wrong. That is wrong. That is very predatory. It's really shit house practice, and these kids ain't getting anything out of it. Or no, the parents of these kids ain't getting anything out of it. If the coaches are good, and again I can't attest for these particular people, if the coaches are good and the kids are enjoying themselves, it's probably money well spent. If they come away a bit happier, feeling a bit safer, that actually may be enough for the majority of people. But it's one of those things. But yeah, actually setting up and running as a business, there's no problem with that. If you didn't have people doing that, we'd never have anybody in decent, like combat sports especially. Combat sports in particular, they have to run as businesses. And you're going to work from your spit and sawdust gyms to your more professional gyms, and then eventually, you've got the opportunity for somebody to potentially be a fighter on a world stage. You ain't going to do that for free. These people, if you take, for example, the UFC, which is probably it's the biggest MMA organisation in the world, fighters ain't fighting for nothing on there. People ain't risking long-term brain damage for nothing. Fair enough, there's a dispute about fighter pay and things like that, but they're still not stepping in that cage for nothing. And they have to spend a lot of money to get to that point, you know, from their grassroots training to their semi-professional, you know, all the way up. They have to pay. And you're either paying in cash, you're either paying in health, both physically and mentally, or you're paying in terms of your social life, or a combination of all three. So there's always cost involved. And if there's cost involved, you have to have a solid black and white business model to make it work. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. If people are ethical about the way they approach it and they're not trying to prey on people, I don't think there's a problem with it. But I mean, there's multiple avenues for people to make money in martial arts. So there are people that run events, okay? So many, many years ago, you had large events like Senai, which was a massive thing in the UK. And events similar to that now are starting to come to the forefront. So you have the likes of Kaizen events and the Festival of Martial Arts that's going to be coming up in 2023. These are humongous events. You are going to have martial arts practitioners from all over the place gathering together in a single location to train and to interact and to buy and sell stuff. It's going to be phenomenal. You know, a real community of all communities coming together under a singular purpose. Is it wrong to make money from that? No way. If you're pulling people from all over the place in, and you know, if some people need to, if some people are being paid for their time to coach, you got to sell tickets, haven't you? Just like you would sell tickets to a fight. It's the same deal. And I'll be honest with you, these events have been fantastic. I attended Kaizen earlier on this year. I can't even remember what I paid. I think it was about 45 or might have been 60 quid. But when you consider the cost against the fact that you're getting 6 sessions worth of different training with different instructors from all over the place in one day, the actual cost is very low for what you can take away. I came away from Kaizen last year with a notebook full of notes. The following Monday, I used those notes and I supplemented it into my sessions. So what I like to do, I like to go to these events and then whatever I learn, I'll bring back and I'm like, this is what I did over the weekend. And then like maybe the following week, I'll be like, well, we did this last week based on what I did over the weekend. Now this is how it applies to our karate. Because, you know, all karateka are horrendous thieves. We love stealing ideas off everybody else. But I remember very specifically, the first thing that I did at Kaizen earlier on this year, I learned to do a rolling knee bar, taking part in a Sambo session, which was mint. I've never done Sambo before in my life. And I cannot remember the coach's name for the life of me. I'm going to have to give Lucci a shout and ask what his name was. But he was ex-military, just one of those genuinely old school hard guys. And I had a fantastic chat with him and got some wicked training in through him and his son. Learned this, you know, amazing technique. I was like, whoa, I'm like dragging off from Tekken, man. I can do a rolling knee bar now. And it was great. It was well received in my dojo, you know, and you can't put a price, well, you can put a price on that, I suppose, but personally, you can't put a price on those experiences and you can't put a price on bringing that knowledge together. So running businesses like that, there's no problem with that. You know, buying and selling merchandise, people have been making martial arts gear for years. For years. And pretty much everything in my dojo, you'll see the letters MAR written all over it because I go to one shop. Martial arts people are people of habit. We go to the same places. We go to places that we know, people that we know. If we know that they do something good, we buy from them. Is there a problem with people buying and selling products and making profit from it? Fuck no. Let them do it, man. Yeah, if I want a really good punch bag and I know that these guys can make it, I'm going to go to them and get a punch bag. If I need pads, I'm going to go to them and get pads. You know, I'm not going to say, give me some pads for free. That's not how economy works. That's not how capitalism works. Make the products, buy the products. Martial arts, people have been doing it for years as well. Particularly in Japanese martial arts, there's like a real stigma about it. They're like, oh, why are you buying and selling that? You're cheapening your art. Really? Am I? Have you ever in your life bought a fucking martial arts book? Yeah, and you should do. You should go out and read and get experience from that. I've got fucking reams of books. And those books were written by people who put their experiences and knowledge onto paper to sell them as books. It's no different from you paying them money if they were to teach you. It's the same deal, really. Not as personal, obviously, but it's the same deal. So you'll happily buy a book, but people ain't supposed to profit from what they know? What? Some people re-release the same book over and over again. Altered, with new information in. I know Patrick McCarthy, he's re-released the Babishi like a bajillion times now. It's a little bit different each time. Apparently they keep finding new pages or chapters, or his research and learning has changed, so he's gone, well, actually what I wrote down before, I've got something else now instead. If you want to read it, it's in this book. Boom, there you go. People are paying for it. Nobody's complaining. So why are you complaining about people that want to set up and run as a business, try and make a living from what they enjoy? I think in many cases it's fairly obvious. One, jealousy probably, because you can't fucking do it yourself. Or you're making excuses why you can't do it yourself. Two, in some instances, the gripes are warranted. There are predatory motherfuckers out there. And you don't want to be tarred with the same brush. But if your content is good, if what you do is good, if you have a passion and a love for what you do and for your students, passing that knowledge on to your students, it's worth it, okay? And I think in some instances, I think people just get upset that they never thought to do it sooner. I remember, on a very personal note, when I was at college, so I went into the first college course I did was an MVQ in sport and recreation, and the guy that owned a gym that I used to train at the time, he allowed me to get a work placement there, because we had to have a work placement as part of what we did. It was a tick box exercise. You had to do stuff day in, day out and stuff like that. And I remember I received little to no training on what I was supposed to do. So I'd turn up day in, day out, basically man a till. It was a shit experience, I'll be honest with you. And then he complained to my college, told me I was lazy, that I didn't want to work, and all this other shit. Really fucking bullied me, actually. It was quite a traumatic encounter. The guy was a piece of shit, I'll be honest with you. He was a con man and a fucking scoundrel. And not a scoundrel in a good way either, not like a Star Wars scoundrel. I'm talking proper absolute piece of crap. And yeah, I remember that one part of the conversation, he asked me, what is it you want to do when you're older? And I was like, I want to open my own dojo. I want to teach martial arts for a living. And he got right up into my face, right this fucking close, and he says, that is a fucking pipe dream and you'll never do it in your life. I'll bet money on it. It's a fucking pipe dream, you're going to be a failure. That was his words to me. Got my dojo, motherfucker. It took me some time, and I've had to overcome some incredible fucking obstacles and shit people to get here. But I'll tell you what, for nothing, if I can do this, now bear in mind, as I mentioned earlier, I don't make any money out of what I do in the dojo, but it does allow me a very comfortable space and a good platform to teach from. And I hope in the years to come that it will serve as a brilliant springboard for me to, take what I do to another level. But if I can do this with nothing, now when I started, I had nothing, not even a fucking job, okay? All I had was the idea, the compulsion to do karate, the compulsion to do martial arts. That was it. And it's the only thing that's kept me going through bouts of ill mental health. Even now, when I believe that I've got no purpose, even when I'm so fucking pissed off with everything that I am doing, because it doesn't feel like it's getting anywhere, I still do it anyway because of this innate compulsion in me to keep doing it. If I can do it, anybody can. So I'm going to wrap things up a bit. So I'm not ranting on too much, and we're about the half-hour mark, so nobody's going to want to listen to me more than that. If you have a passion, it doesn't matter whether it's martial arts or not martial arts, okay? I have seen enough people in this world get slammed down because they had a fucking dream and they dared to mention it to somebody. And rather than trying to lift these people up, they were shot down for it. If you're one of those people that wants to shit on people's ideas and stuff like that, get fucked. You're a dick, and you should go and take a running fucking jump off a very tall fucking building. You are no help to your society or your fellow man, and you should fucking do one. Simple as that. People like that are bullies. They'll never get anywhere themselves in life. I was told that all this was a fucking pipe dream. And some days it feels like I'm on shifting sand and it could all disappear at any second. I live almost in constant anxiety of that happening. But right now, right this second, I'm sat in my own dojo. And I hope that what I'm doing currently is going to do my instructor, Sensei Westwood, proud. I hope that it's going to boost the room and produce students that will far exceed me in every way, shape and form in the future. And I will fight tooth and nail to ensure that that happens. So yeah, if anyone tells you that you can't do it or it shouldn't be done, it's always done by suggestion. It's never outright told to you. But if they suggest that it shouldn't be done, ignore them, do it anyway. And if you fail, you tried, which means that you did more than everybody else that sat there fucking moaning about it. All right? So, final thing to point out. Making money from martial arts, there's no problem in it, okay? If you can create a successful business doing something you love, you should fucking do it. Because you've only got one life. And letting all those fears in isn't going to allow you to live that life to its best. That doesn't mean that if you're not making money from martial arts, you're not doing it right. You know, everybody's got their own paths. But, you know, your path isn't necessarily the path. It's not the only one anyway. We all have our different goals and skills and individual personalities in life, and they should all be used to the fullest. We should be allowed to live as people. We've already got enough going on in this world that's trying to squash us down and, you know, make us less than we should be. So try not to let it as much as you can. If you have that passion, go for it. Find a way. And if you can't find a way, make a way. Okay? I hope you all have a fantastic Monday. And yeah, I will see you all soon. Take care, train hard, and yeah, ta-ra a bit.